Oh my gosh, I am really excited about today's conversation. I welcome Bill and Seth and Brandon to have this conversation with me. Who knows where we're going to go in this hour? That's what's so exciting about the way we do these things. The topic I wanted to bring up to kick us off today, in line with the pursuit of purpose, is the importance in identifying your inherent skills versus your acquired skills. Guys, do you have any thoughts on that? What's the big deal? Inherent versus acquired, yeah?
I think that a lot of times we can acquire skills based on our training and our experience and maybe a job that we're in or schooling or whatever it may be. And we could become fairly proficient, pretty good at something. Um, but that doesn't mean that it is where we feel most energized, where we would be best suited to be spending our time and using our talents and treasure. Um, I think that part of it is we just get into the on the path and we get good at something and then we just think, well, that's what I got to do.
Yeah.
And I see you see it when somebody transitions from one career to the next or one job to the next. And the first thing they do is look for something else where they can just continue to use the same skills. Now, those could be their innate skills, those skills that they're both good at and love to do and are energized by. Um, More often than not, though, I think they're just, hey, this is what I've done. I need a new job, and so I'm looking for something where I can put to use these skills I've learned.
Absolutely. I love, by the way, I got to pause here for a second. You used the word treasure. When you were referring to what we identify in Blueprint as inherent skills, you use the word treasure. And if you, and this is true for everyone, if you have treasure within you, doesn't it make sense to use it? However, so thank you for that. However, if you don't know what your inherent skills are, how can you use them? Right? So in the situation that you're referring to, Brandon, where I've come off the heels of a very successful career and I'm looking for something else, what more would I use than the skills that have provided the success for me to date? Yeah. Seth, Bill, do you have anything to add to this conversation regarding acquired versus inherent skills, which is what we search for in Blueprint?
I do.
Please.
So I'm thinking of Michael Singer wrote a book called The Untethered Soul. What I notice is that when I'm open to the world and my environment and what's brought into my path, that's a fundamental shift for me from being a person that's striving, thinking that I'm obtaining, building this skill set. So staying more on this concept that I'm in control of the entire environment. I'm tired of what the world does, what the world presents to me. So it kind of just shifts that perspective, I think. Um, it tames the inside voice that we all have, and what that sounds like. Being able to shut that voice up and be more responsive to what is meant for you and starts revealing the inherent skill set, I think is a completely different view of things. There's similarities, but the skill to be able to lean into the inherent part um, is something that fights against everything that we've kind of been taught, in terms of how to be successful in the world. How do we, the example I always use is how do we look right on the LinkedIn platform as an example. Uh,
Very good
that's what comes to
example.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that very much because something I was going to talk about today is how when we enter the school system, we're kind of treated as if we have a blank slate, that there's nothing in us. nothing in our storehouse. And so then we go through elementary school, middle school, high school, college, acquiring skills. And the focus then in test taking, resumes, SATs is what have you learned and how can you apply that? And how could you use that out in the workforce? Nowhere in there is the question of what are your natural skills, or the word I've been using, inherent, or as Brandon used, treasure. As far as I'm aware, schools don't spend a lot of time assessing natural skill. And what you and I understand, and you were getting to this, Seth, is what our inherent skill is, our treasure is not only the stuff that brings us the most energy, like Brandon referenced, but it's also the stuff that fills our soul, like you were referencing, Seth. So once again, if I'm stepping out into the world, as you mentioned, Seth, I'm taught that it's best for me just to play it safe and use the things that I have a credential on the wall for, that I can prove my worth. So, how do we combat that, guys?
Just rebel.
Love it. Tell us more, Bill. How do we rebel?
Well, I wasn't very good at conveyor belt education when I went through it. So, but I do recall some teachers that were good at recognizing natural talent and encouraging you in that direction if they felt that they could do that. You're right, most of them didn't do that. But again, my education for that was probably back in the early 60s. So what I recall, there were good teachers that did recognize that, and as I aged and as the system evolved, it became less and less responsive in that way. But I know I had 6 months of community college before I gave up on formal education altogether, and just decided to pursue stuff that interested me, and that's pretty much kind of the way I decided to go.
Dude,
I just found that I had much better results with it.
yep.
I found that I could jump ahead as opposed to going through the rote pattern that I was being
Mhm.
directed. It worked while I was in the military. It worked when I came out in professional life. I found that whenever I tried to go along to get along, it never worked for me.
Mhm. As Seth was mentioning, what looks right on LinkedIn. And
Well, yeah,
yeah.
but the thing is, the difference with LinkedIn is LinkedIn has algorithms, and if you don't operate within a certain confine, you get ignored altogether or penalized
Mhm.
and stopped and get buried somewhere in the detail. Uh, so you have to learn how to play with the algorithm so that you can trick it or move around it.
Sure. But again, the knowledge, I get that, like playing within the system. But what we're talking about is taking the time to know, to assess what is that treasure within you, wouldn't you say?
Well, again, I didn't get much of that kind of encouragement until I
Okay.
was later in private industry, in which case it became the personal development space became extremely congested with all kinds of assessments and things one could do, from strength finders to all the different things that I'm sure everybody here can think of.
Mhm.
I've taken all the assessments. You know, some of them were contradictory. I did well in some, or I should say, I marked one way in some and another way in others. So,
So, and you've also gone through the blueprint process. So, how would you compare and contrast blueprint process to some of the other assessments that are out there and available for people?
well, I don't know that it's an assessment. I think it's it's a it's a it's a guided tour.
Hmm. Okay. Tell us more.
So you have someone who is skilled in inquiry, appreciative inquiry in particular.
Hmm.
And even though they don't call it that, that's what it is. And as a result, things start to emerge that you recognize as things that you have had good experience with in the past, and somebody now is profiling or highlighting those things so that you understand, hey, this is also valued out here as well.
I love the phrase. I don't think I've ever heard that before. Appreciative inquiry. Can you define that for us? I know you kind of did, but can you do it again?
Well, it's a way of going through a question and answer sequence that allows one to allows the guide who's taking you through it to appreciate actively appreciate the things that are coming through as attributes and possibilities.
Oh, love that. Attributes and possibilities of your for your treasure.
Right.
Thank you. I love that. And all of us here, as Bill is referencing, we all have that. We have that ability, that skill to do appreciative inquiry. And for us, it is a kick in the pants to do it. And guys, isn't it true? We find ourselves doing it all the time. Whether someone's a blueprint process client or not, we're always doing this appreciative inquiry. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
me
go ahead.
especially, I would say my wife frequently is like, "Hey, don't stop. I don't want to go deeper right now. I want to take a nap or I want to just chill and relax." And I'm like, "Okay, all right, I was just curious. I was just
Yeah.
curious."
Oh, I love
Um,
it so much.
something about the assessments because I, like Bill, have taken a lot of them. And I was a professor in the leader development space at the Naval War College and a student there. And in 3 years, I probably took 5 or 6 of them. And I think that some of them are great. They have their pros and cons. They have their benefits, especially to someone who has not done many self assessments, doesn't have very much self awareness. They can be very, very helpful to get a conversation going. Something a lot different, though, about something like Blueprint process is you, with assessments, you're typically, there are some that you're not, but for 90% of the ones I've taken, it's just a black and white answer, or they'll ask a question and there's 4 multiple choice, and whether or not that's how you actually think about it, right? Whether or not that's what's coming up for you, it doesn't matter. You're forced into like picking one of those. And their algorithms are pretty good. And I would say that a lot of these assessments, a lot of the assessment about me, I can relate to. Um, and also, that's a pretty big deficit if you're actually trying to get to the core of what's really important to someone. Because it, it's gray. We are complex. We're not black and white. As like things to us humans, right? Everything's not just black and white, put it in a box and it fits real neatly. Like
Yeah.
we're complex, lots of maybes, lots of it depends, right? Like I like this, except for these 40 times that I don't like this, but the other 400 times I do like.
Yeah.
And so when you are in a relationship, a partnership with somebody for Blueprint process, a coach, or somebody exercising appreciative inquiry, like that person, we are curious about you and all those complexities. And we want to know and help you see through those complexities to just have a better understanding, a clearer understanding of what it is that's really important to you versus, yes, no, A, B, C, or D, black or white, you know, more complex than that.
Ah, I'm so grateful you used that word. Yeah, our treasure is complex, 100%. And for me, coming off of an assessment like, let's say, StrengthsFinder, and I know my top 5 skills, that's cool. That's very, very empowering versus coming out of Blueprint and I know what's behind Brandon, which is around 100 things in 4 categories: skills, passions, purpose elements, and values. Now, not only is my self understanding so much more robust in terms of all those complexities, but oh my gosh, the confidence. And who doesn't love feeling seen, right? And like you're saying, Brandon, I haven't heard anybody with a different assessment than what the reaction that you shared coming off of an assessment's results. Like some of it fits me some of the time. It's pretty good. That helps me be seen a little bit. Plus, I know a computer is seeing me, an algorithm is seeing me. That's very, very different. When you're in face to face with a blueprint process practitioner and they see you, that's a person. That's a person that is seeing you, studying you. And the appreciative inquiry comes from the philosophy that everything about you is powerful, and we want to find that natural power and help you use it more. Being seen like that, so much more empowering. Wouldn't you guys agree? Hey Seth, what you got?
I think as we move through the process, I think about my approach in demonstrating this incredible vulnerability for others, or in my story and for others, so that they can finally, like we talked about powerful and talked about treasure, but how do we teach people to sit with what they have?
Mm,
There's a missing okayness
mm,
as we start approaching this. Um,
yeah,
I mean, hey, no one took the time to help me identify these things and come to terms with our inherent qualities. So the blueprint process helps us do that. But in addition, how do we get through these shadows that have likely told you your whole life that your design, there's a gap, there's a constant gap.
yeah,
Um, then you find out very quickly that we are but a whisper or um, the mist, or I forgot what the Bible had said. I think it was like we're just like a morning mist that
mm,
in terms of the time that we have here. So how do we start teaching people to be able to sit within that with what they have today and what they're meant to bring to the people in their immediate vicinity and actually start living? So it's really trying to bridge that um, and share the journey that happens in that space. It's different for everyone, of course, but just learning how to do that has been a
mm,
massive undertaking. Um, and recognizing that, yeah, there's some people that maybe at a very early age grew up in a loving environment and had the right coaches and the right people, and you know they learned this early on. And I would say, good for you. A little bit different experience over here. So,
yeah.
but better late than never.
Absolutely. So you mentioned the learning curve that you yourself have gone through because you didn't have that environment growing up where you were
Mm-mm.
seen as full of treasure.
No.
So how have you've gone through the blueprint process. You have a similar map to what Brandon has behind him. How have you started to sit with those things, acknowledge those things, that treasure that is within you, and using it despite what the gap is suggesting to you?
I think the biggest thing that I notice today is I'm sitting with a circle of men that accept all of me.
Mm,
The power of that community,
mm,
being able to have that acceptance and to show up with what I am at that time, and I'm able to talk about, hey, right now I'm feeling this, and go through that. Um, like a good demonstration is a few weeks ago, I wasn't willing to talk to anyone. Like I went
mm,
inside and I was going through that deal, and I went to my men's group gathering and did some work that evening on just like confessing that I knew that I
mm,
needed to reach out to my community or communities, and I didn't.
mm.
So as we moved through that, we got into a discussion of worthiness and all the things that will trap you inside. And then they
Nice.
asked the question of how many people in this group would respond to Seth if he reached out to you.
Oh,
And the whole room, of course, uh, any day, any time, any place, um, which is new. So I think it's the same way with our blueprint. When you can sit in community like that, and all of a sudden it's like, we're going to celebrate your design. We want to talk about those parts of you that are showing up but feel foreign still because you haven't had enough practice. Like, so to me, it's that community piece and um, what shows up when you start really emulating your blueprint, because you're not an imposter anymore. You're not striving for the world's approval or someone else's. You're completely 100% you.
You're bringing up a really good point. Like, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Which comes first, authenticity or community? And you're describing this beautiful cyclical effect where you've been able to leverage, just because I know your story, you've been able to leverage the faith of a few in you, the compliments of a few in you. You had a few people that were around you that believed in you, that applauded you. You're able to leverage that plus your blueprint to say yes to a whole new community, this community that you're referring to. And now you're able to leverage them for even greater expression of authenticity. Would you agree with that cyclical effect?
Yeah, it just continues expanding and growing.
I love that. It actually relates to principle number 4 of Blueprint, which is that this is an infinite journey. And so to try to uncover everything that you are and use it immediately is it's a farce and it's going to do a disservice to you. So I love that story. It just and it took faith on your part to say yes even to me as you're a practitioner to go through the process. It took faith on your part to say yes to the idea that you and I together might be able to unlock a ton of good stuff. That in and of itself took a measure of faith in you and your maker. And then from that, you're able to leverage it into our community and then this larger community. And like you said, it's just the expression of your authenticity is just going to continue to expand. And I thank you for your faith. I thank all of you for your faith.
Yeah, and I think that's our greatest pull is once you experience this, we want to tell other people about it.
Yes.
We want
Yes.
to pull them in. There's such a need that exists, and people are avoiding it for very understandable reasons.
Yeah.
But I think we're the people that are like, hey, I know what you're going through. I know what
Yep.
that weight is. I know all of the distractions, but give me 30 minutes.
Yep. Excellent point. 30 minutes. You don't have to commit to hanging out with us for a lifetime. 30 minutes will actually give you a greater insight into yourself than a 30-minute assessment online. Wouldn't you
Yeah,
agree? All right.
absolutely.
Seth has brought up a really good question. And Seth, I'm starting with you. I want to ask all three of you this question. So we'll go Seth, Brandon, Bill. You just brought up what happens to us as practitioners who are good at appreciative inquiry. You brought up a passion that bubbled up within you once you experience the results of this to go out and share it with as many people as will. Yeah?
Hmm.
Can you answer for me, all three of you? Again, we'll start with you, Seth. Why do you want to get it out there? Why do you want to use this for other people? Why is that so important to you? What's the burning fire for each of you? The single biggest reason that you want to share this with other people. Doesn't matter how many. Seth, go.
Yeah, I think 1,000% for me is that the level of pain that I have been through by not knowing this was so enormous for me and had such an impact on me that if I can help other people to go through 25% less or whatever that number is, less than I did, then I want to do that.
Mhm.
And it's not just the pain part, and Bill had mentioned it, like school in the 70s was a lot different. Like teachers were still allowed to say things like, this kid stinks and, blah, 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 whatever. It was just like more truth in advertising back in the 70s. Um, But I think just being able to show up in this space with not only a desire to do that, but also to use language and to recognize those things that may never have existed in your world.
Mm.
And I'll use the example that I'm going through my struggle and I'm probably in the gap space and I'm going down the rat hole of adoption. And the assessment of everyone in that group as they came to each tell me what my essence was, they landed on bright light.
Mhm.
How in the heck do you land on bright light by people in the community when you yourself are going through this, still wrestling with your blueprint? So I think it's that
Yeah.
when you can be the person that sees something that others don't see in themselves,
Yeah. Yeah.
then this doesn't get any better.
Oh, I love that. A dung heap was what was coming to my mind. Like
Yeah,
when we're in that tunnel and we feel just awful. It's like dung heap versus bright light. And what you're saying is you so want to be that mirror to people so they understand why. Like, I think when we're all in the dung heap, we know that that's not who we really are. But
hmm
but I don't know why. I don't have the details. And so what you're saying is that as a practitioner, you want to give them that research so that they can, with proof of science, can understand, even in the dung heap moments, not only that they're amazing, but why they're amazing and why they're needed.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Brandon. Why is it so important for you to get this out and share it with people?
I think for me, it's the ripple effect.
Ripple.
And by that, I mean, I think that I'm meant to work with leaders who are ready to kind of find their natural style. And to me, that starts with their blueprint.
Mm.
Um, and the reason I think of this ripple effect is I see in my career in the Navy, and when you look at politics, the outsized consequence of action that leaders have. And
Mm.
so great teams can do great things, right? Teams can accomplish so much more than individuals. And leaders have a huge role in shaping the environments for those teams to thrive. And I think that transformative leaders who understand their own blueprint and therefore understand that everybody with them has a unique blueprint and understand that they're called to reveal their blueprint and lean into that and then are willing to help their teammates do the same thing, maybe not go through blueprint process, but learn how to help their teams and teammates connect with their own values and blueprints and then connect those to the organizational mission. I just imagine organizations, a military, a government, where those are the types of leaders that are actually leading versus some of the ones we have now. And I just think of what good we could do. I mean, if everybody, right? Like, I just think of all the good we can do. And so it's kind of my way, like Tammy, when you and I went through Blueprint a long time ago, I remember trying to clarify my purpose statement for the first time and just really purpose and cause, like the so what. And I just remember thinking, I always hear like all these people that are seem to be inspiring, they all have these goals to like change the world and make the world a better place. And for me, it was really tough at the time to kind of connect with something so large like that. And instead, what we landed on and what is still really foundational and core to my purpose and cause right now is like looking in the mirror and starting with yourself, and then help your surrounding team, which could be an actual team, it could be loved ones, friends, spouses, family, whatever, and start there because everyone that you touch that's part of your team, there's a ripple effect because they have people on their team that you don't directly connect with on a regular basis or ever in some cases, especially, the further out you get, there's people in your downstream ripple effect that you might not have ever even seen before, but that could be benefiting. And so for me, it's that ripple effect and what could be with leaders and teams that are really connected to their blueprints.
I love that. Obviously, it's so powerful when you take the seed of an idea and you take advantage of that ripple effect as you are doing. And I'm curious, now I know your blueprint, so I'm cheating here a little bit, but how did your blueprint guide you to the ripple effect?
Um, well, I think when you go through blueprint process and then when a year later you look at it again and you start to clarify again and you always have this lens of this time, so the context always matters, so this time and place, you can look at your blueprint and you can listen, really not look but listen to it, and certain aspects are going to emerge. They're just going to resonate differently at different times and with more intensity at different times depending on what you're going through. And so that process, because then you take that and you look at it and you say, and then you can, we have an exercise where you could take all that and then you filter it and put it into different themes. And really you're just like you're trying to clarify down to what's really what you're being called to kind of do at this time and place with your people. And I guess it's that. It's just the filtering process of what comes up for me time and time again is team.
Yep.
And what comes up for me time and time again is this idea of empowering my teammates. And, when I first went through it, I felt really empowered that I could show up as my natural self. And I didn't have to try to copy all of the. I saw really great leaders growing up. I had some really great mentors throughout my time in the military. And I saw some really bad ones, what I would consider bad ones too. Um, and the great ones I always admired for they just seemed to have this natural way about them. They weren't trying to be somebody they weren't. They weren't perfect, but they knew who they were. Seemed like it, right? I didn't have blueprint type conversations with all these leaders, but it really just seemed like they were their natural selves and they cared about their teams and they cared about the people on their teams and they seemed to have a way to help draw out the best in their teammates, and I just was super attracted to that. But a lot of times you get promoted into these
Mm.
positions of leadership based on past performance, based on expertise, based on maybe some of those acquired skills that you just got really good at and that organization valued, and so they promote you into positions of leadership then, and it's a totally different skill set. Leading other experts is completely different than just being an expert yourself. It's not even close. But a lot of people get in these positions, they don't realize that, and they think they're still supposed to have all the answers and do all the things. Meanwhile that's not what they're getting paid for, and sometimes they don't even realize it. But as I was getting ready to assume that role, my biggest responsibility as a leader yet, I still felt like, man, I don't know. Like, I feel like I know myself pretty well, but I just was missing a little bit of the clarity of true uniqueness. Like, what was I really bringing to this team other than being a great helicopter pilot, in the Navy? Like, those 300 plus people in my squadron didn't really need me to be the best helicopter pilot. I had 40 other pilots. you know, they needed someone, they needed me to be me. And I guess like that's the crux of it. Like you go through it, and then I'm like, just had this sense of empowerment to just be me. Like in the depth of my understanding of me was just way deeper after going through Blueprint. And then the thing is, it's lifelong. And so you continue to examine yourself, and different parts of you mean different things at different times in your life. And I mean, it's an infinite thing, I think. Um, yeah, man, I don't even know if I answered your question, but that's
A
what
hundred,
came up for me.
yeah, 100% you answered it, and you added some really cool value. So a couple of things I recognize in your journey, that's something that's true for all of us in our blueprint journey. Every time we look at our blueprint, we understand it a little bit better because there's been time in between the first time we looked at our blueprint and the second time, third time, fourth time, that we're exercising that muscle. And the more that we exercise that muscle, which we cannot do if we don't know it. So once we identify it, we start to use it. Once we use it, we grow not only in confidence, but in awareness as to what it's for. So, in answer to my question, you recognize that over time, this idea of team and the power of the ripple effect really started to settle in you. And of course, it was always there, but you were waking up to just how significant of a theme it was for you. And so here you are today, structuring your entire business around that concept. And it is your why. And I really appreciate everything you brought up. So thank you for answering the way that you did. Hey, Val, how about you? What is your one burning reason to share this with other people?
It gives me motivation to get up in the morning.
Ooh, tell us more.
Well, I mean, it's always been my objective to leave things better than I found them, as just a general rule or principle. And as I've evolved through the different positions I've held, the different professions I've participated in, I've always tried to bring that level of activity to the work I did. And I think the thing that I guess tested my abilities the hardest was I used to work in a soup kitchen every Saturday, or at least one Saturday a month, sometimes more. And I was in charge of that for the group that I headed up with my church. So I had to get people to participate in that and that sort of thing. And it really was serving breakfast to the homeless, where I don't want to say homeless. I think they just had a different kind of home. They lived on the street.
Hmm.
And I found out through that it was very difficult to change things because people were kind of like set in their ways and whatnot. It was probably more difficult than working with professionals for the most part because these people had hit roadblocks and couldn't move any further and liked it that way.
Yeah.
And I guess even now, I mean, money's not a motivator for me anymore. It just isn't. I just don't care. I mean, my kids are grown for the most part. I still have some that are a little bit more dependent than others, but nothing they won't ultimately be able to get around. And they have all the right motivators now to do that, better teachers than myself. So now I participate in stuff like this so that I can come to groups like this and watch other professionals that are coming up in the craft doing extremely well, wrestling with their own personal issues, their own personal take on the world, and I'm learning from that. That's important to me. That's probably more important to me than anything else. So this group gives me purpose, gives me a reason to be here, and I mean be here in the truest sense of the word. Because I really don't. I don't solicit. I don't look for people to work with. I find them. You know, I run into them, and I learned a long time ago that I'm not real good at influencing, at directly influencing. I'm much better at introductions,
Hmm.
and so I'm a good connector. I find somebody that's really talented in a given area, and I can usually align that individual with someone else who needs that talent desperately, and do it in a way that if I do it right, they don't even know I did it. They're not even aware of it. That's the fun part. How do you make that difference without calling attention to yourself? Because that usually detracts from the ultimate product. You know, that at least for me, for my purpose, the way I handle stuff. So yeah, it's kind of a selfish thing. I think I have to pursue it because it's the only reason to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
There's no other reason because I've pretty much done anything that I've wanted to do. Yeah, I didn't climb Mount Everest. I've not jumped out of perfectly safe airplanes with nothing but a silk sheet behind me. But you know, I've come close to death a couple times, so I know what that feels like. And who knows? I'm sure I'm going to come close to it again at some point in time. Just stuff today doesn't impress me the way it once did. I mean, I've been through all the assessments, I've been through all the coaching. I've watched people that mentored me fall apart at the seams and ultimately evaporate and disappear. I felt bad about that, but it's the way of the world. You know, it's just the way things are. We live in a time right now where everything's confusing. So you better know where you stand, because if you don't know where you stand, somebody's going to be more than happy to tell you where you should stand.
Bad.
And in all likelihood, down the road, it's not going to be where you want to be. So
Mm.
I guess that's the best answer I can really give you.
It's a great answer. Thank you. And you said you said a couple things, of course, that I love. But once again, just like Brandon is representing, as you've looked at your blueprint and as you've gotten to know yourself even outside of blueprint, you recognize two things about yourself. One, that you always love to leave it better than you found it. And two, you love helping people get over roadblocks. So when people are okay with their roadblocks and they're just okay trying to exist within their roadblocks, that really steals the joy and possibility. And so you love working with people who want to get over their roadblocks and don't know how with this appreciative inquiry. I have loved in my work with you and our experience with you how you just keep there. You're so persistent when it comes to that. And it's such a beautiful message that you're putting out that yes, you can get over roadblocks. You have within you everything that you need. What a message of hope you bring. All right. So I want to get back to this question of inherent versus acquired skills. Because again, when we're doing blueprint, us as practitioners, when we're doing this thing that Bill referred to as appreciative inquiry, one of the categories that we look for, we refer to as skills. But as we've been talking, we don't really care about acquired skills unless they have hues of inherent skills, or as Brandon referred to as your inherent treasure. So I want to talk a little bit about how we know the difference. So here we are as practitioners. We're listening to your stories. We're listening to anything you want to share with us. And we're listening for what your treasure is. How do we as practitioners know the difference between acquired skills and inherent skills? How do we sniff that out? So if you guys are comfortable, please share how you sniff it out. I'm super happy to share myself. So do any of you want to share how you sniff out the difference between acquired skills, which might be up on a wall somewhere, on a resume, on a diploma? How do you guys do that?
Well,
It's okay. Yeah.
usually usually acquired skill is something somebody's going to brag about to some degree,
Ooh,
and usually
interesting.
an inherent skill is just going to appear.
I love that. I'd never thought about that before, but you're absolutely right. You guys, any thoughts on what Bill just said?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
I
thinking.
mean, it's like oh, sorry, Seth. Go
No,
ahead.
go ahead, Brandon. I'll go after you.
I mean, it just resonated with me because I was thinking, I think when we went through, it was like, I'm a helicopter pilot.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty good helicopter pilot, you know? I wasn't the best, but I was pretty good. And but at the end of it's like, do you want to continue to fly helicopter? No, I don't want to continue to fly. Why not? You're really good at it. I don't know. It doesn't, it's just a thing that I'm good at. So I guess I what Bill said really resonated. I think that we get good at something in a career, a profession, in the family, whatever, and we become kind of known for that.
Yes.
And we have seen external accolades and external attaboys, and we are successful in the eyes of someone else, and we're getting that kind of affirmation, which is a
Yeah.
very human thing to want. And so then we then, just because of that, then we naturally think, okay, well, I should be proud of it. I should be proud of this then.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, I'm skilled. All right, let's do this. I'm a great pilot. I can hit fastballs. I can throw a curveball. It's like, um, I think we just, because of what we get from external sources, we think, well, this is what I'm supposed to be giving back. Like, this is more of that. So I get more affirmation. I give more, it's a circle then. So, but I think a good indicator, a good sniff test is, is this something that you could see yourself doing forever? Would you do it with no money or little money, or, if,
Or notoriety.
or notoriety? Like, would you keep doing it if nobody were watching? Would you keep doing it if you weren't making any money?
Yeah.
And assuming that all of your finances were taken care of. Like, you have to, we live, somebody said earlier, like, you live in a system. And so you have to learn how to play within the system to some
Yeah.
degree. I think it was
Yeah.
Bill with LinkedIn.
Yep.
You have to have money. Like, we live in a society where there's a basic level, right? So let's just assume that that's taken care of. And if you can get somebody to say, okay, well, let me just assume that that's all taken care of, and then would I do it? You know, that's when you can start to kind of sniff it out, I think.
Excellent point, Seth. I'll get to you here in a second. So Brandon gave you a sniff test, and that's what we'd like to give you here in the remaining 10 minutes or so, is how can you, the listener, how can you determine what's the difference between my acquired and my inherent skills? So Brandon just identified one, which is what do you desire to do? What do you love to do? What do you love to do so much that it wouldn't matter if you got paid, it wouldn't matter if people were noticing, it wouldn't matter if you got accolades, things on the wall. What do you love to do so much that you would do it regardless of any of that? Did I say that okay, Brandon? Okay, cool. Back to what Bill said, and yes, Seth, I'm going to get to you in 2 seconds. Well, maybe it might be a little bit longer than 2 seconds. Um, Back to what Bill said, things just show up. So interesting. One of the things that we know about Blueprint is it's natural to you. So that would be something I would add to your list. You've got one from Brandon. What do you love to do so much it wouldn't matter if people were watching, noticing, applauding? And let's add a second one from Bill. What comes so naturally to you that you're not checking with yourself, should I be doing this? Do I need to turn this on? Do I need to try? No, it just is happening all of its own accord. You're not trying to make it happen. So you've got two characteristics there that can help you, the listener, determine what your natural skills are versus what your inherent skills versus acquired. Okay, Seth, what you got?
Boy, we know because we can look in the mirror. We can see someone's eyes. We can feel the energy shift. We can hear the words shift. All the nonverbal things give away the truth of where your inherent skills are. When I notice it now is that as people are just words, words, more words, 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 like they're trying to manage everyone in the room and give the right answer and make sure the person in that role gets what they need and that they've delivered the right answer to this other individual. And uh, when that falls away,
Mm.
people's shoulders go down, their chest will come up a little bit, their eyes will start sparkling. It's just amazing to see that. And I think it's so uncommon in the busyness that when we bring people into this space and that happens, I think it is an immediate tell. And at the same time, I think it surprises the crap out of them when they notice that shift that happens.
Mm,
Uh, but just look in the mirror. Tell
yeah.
yourself, you know, yeah, here's your next drill. Go into your bathroom, look in the mirror, and tell yourself that you're worthy and lovable.
Mm.
Watch how hard it is to go through that. But same thing with inherent skills. When those come out, it's immediate.
You're tapping into something that I think is like if I could give one hack for the blueprint process, it would be what Seth is talking about, and that is energy. When we are using the skills that we've been given by God, it feels as if we've been plugged in to an outlet, and that energy is coursing through us. Yeah. We're not trying to do anything. We don't have to, it's not a heavy lift because we're plugged into a divine, infinitely creative source. So I love the physical transformation that you're talking about, right? I just did it. You're
Yeah,
sitting up, you're gesturing. He mentioned eyes bright, volume louder. Eh. Like people are just, and you can feel it in you. And it is displayed differently. It's fascinating to me how people display passion differently. However, the one that Seth is identifying is the physical transformation that you can feel. You might have people give you feedback like, "Whoa, you must be really excited about that. You just came on like a ton of bricks," or whatever their feedback might be. But you yourself can actually feel it as well, like it's an electrical course moving through you. Yes, you guys have some personal experience with that? Okay, cool. All right, so you've got, I think we came up with three. Brandon mentioned what's something that you can do without any accolades, nobody noticing or pay. Bill talked about what is that thing that just comes super, super naturally to you. You don't have to try to do it. It's just happening all the time. And then Seth was talking about when is that energy coursing through you and that physical transformation occurs. These are three characteristics of natural skill. They just happen every time you're using a natural skill. So, something that you can do as an exercise for self study, and this is the key. You got to be willing to take some time and do some research. Brandon earlier was referencing this situation that happens in a lot of people's lives where they're done with one career for whatever reason and they're moving into another. How do you get the confidence and the courage to try something new when, yeah, you're good at something, but you really don't want to do it anymore? You're wiped out, you're tired, you want to do something that you're really interested in. How do you incorporate the money question? Well, it's something that I myself did, and these other guys are doing as well. When I left my former career, I had to take time. I had to study myself. I couldn't just hop from a frying pan into the fire or into another frying pan. I had to slow down and look at myself. I had to identify my natural skills so that I could actually build my next career around them. If this is your treasure, why not build your entire life around it? That's why we call it a blueprint. We call it a blueprint because just like a building's blueprint, you should build your life around this puppy. And it takes some research. Obviously, that's why we're here. That's what the blueprint process is we research your natural blueprint. But you can take these three characteristics that we've shared with you today and watch yourself. When are you doing something that you could do regardless of who's watching? When are you doing something that you could do regardless of how long it takes because it's bringing you that kind of energy? When are you doing things that just feel natural to you? When? Write those puppies down and then go back when you're in a nice reflective mood and ask yourself, what skills was I using? What skill? I used the wrong tense. What skill was I using? What skills were I using? What skills were I using while I was doing that task or that thing or interacting with that person, whatever it was? And then you can actually start to get a list of your natural, not acquired skills. And what we believe here at Blueprint Process is that when you're using that stuff, you are doing what you're here to do. You are actually doing your purpose. You may not know it yet, but by just identifying what your natural skills are, you are using your purpose. You're doing what you're here to do. And something amazing happens when you do that. You not only experience a transformation, but something happens outside of you too. Opportunities will pass away. New opportunities and projects will come forward. People will pass away. New people will come forward. And it's all about this idea of aligning your life with your blueprint. Because we believe that you're here at this point in the world's history for this reason that is your purpose. And your skills are given to you so that you can do your purpose. So when you do it, you will experience a difference within and outside. You guys got anything to add before we wrap up?
I do. Blueprintprocess.com. Like, call me already. Let's go. We've got work to do. I'm amazed we're rolling into the end of 25 and rolling into 2026 already. That just blows my mind. So, uh, of course, as things resonate today, reach out. Let's talk about them. I love the people in this community, how we take ideas and bring them to places that we never imagined. So, look forward to continuing to do that.
You just gave me a great idea. In the last 2 minutes, can you guys get into the chat and put in your cell phone numbers or emails, however you would like people to interact with you? Can you do that real quick while I wrap this up?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you very, very, very much. All right. So next Purpose Pursuer webinar will be Christmas Eve. I may be the only one here, but that's okay. We would love to have you come Christmas Eve. We are always doing this on the fourth Wednesday of every month at noon Pacific at this same Zoom link. We're never quite sure what we're going to be talking about, but guaranteed we will be talking about something that helps you pursue your purpose, very much like what we did today. We have a topic, and at the end or somehow during it, we're coming up with ways, giving you ways to do your own self-study. Of course, we're here when you're tired of doing self-study and you would like that appreciative inquiry that Bill was talking about. We're here for you. And as Seth mentioned, there are more than one of us, right? There's quite a few here today. There are more even that are not here today. All of us are on blueprintprocess.com. You can check us out under the tab Practitioners, and there's contact information there on the tab as well. But if any of these dudes really interested you today, what you're looking for, by the way, when you're looking for a practitioner, the right practitioner for you to take you through the blueprint process, you're looking for someone that you feel like you can trust, that you can share anything and everything with. We will never ask you to do that. However, the more transparency you feel you can provide in our meetings, the more appreciative inquiry we can do, and the faster we will find your blueprint, which means that's the faster that you can get about using your blueprint. Much love to all of you. Thank you so much, practitioners, for joining me today. We'll see you next time.